Peace is expensive. Peace is expensive. As I was reflecting on the gospel of this Sunday, a clip from one of my favorite action movies came to mind, The Equalizer. The action in the movie starts when Denzel Washington's character begins to save this young girl from a life of prostitution and murder, from being murdered by her handlers. He winds up having to kill a whole bunch of very bad people who work for a Russian mobster called an oligarch. He realizes that at some point in the movie, he realizes that unless he kills the top guy, the head of the snake, they will kill everyone he loves and the girl he is protecting as well. At the very end of the movie, when Denzel's character is named Robert McCall, has come to kill this mobster, the fellow asks him, "What will you get from killing me?" The response is, "Peace." To which the mobster responds, thinking that somehow he can get his way out of this, "This is very expensive, but I think I can buy this for you." And then Robert McCall kills him. I guess he couldn't buy peace. Peace is expensive. Many people in our society, probably right here in this church and here at this Mass and now even in this sanctuary, think that money can give us peace in life. Maybe not as dramatically as this mobster, but we think that money can acquire peace for ourselves. Money, in fact, can give a temporary kind of peace. Everyone knows, for example, how costly, how expensive it is to live in Vancouver, even Richmond, surrounding areas, Burnaby, and so on. Price of housing, rents, taxes, and the list goes on and on. Food is going up. All of these cause stress in our lives, and sometimes quite a bit of stress. We think that if we had enough money, we would have peace, albeit perhaps temporary. But in the process of this, we forget to think that peace is expensive. Would we have peace forever? Would we have peace forever if we had enough money? Would that be the end of it? I would submit, depending on what kind of peace you're talking about, the answer is no. It could be yes. In the movie, Robert McCall knew that to take anything from this worldly monster, this mobster, would be the death of him. Worldly peace was way too expensive. We forget all too often that peace is expensive, and we do not always consider the price the world demands of us. The reason is because, I suspect, that we tend very easily, actually, to invent needs, distort the importance of money, thinking that the more we have, the more peace we will have in our lives, the more secure we will feel, the less stress we will have. Because things like the mortgage will always be paid, the kids will be provided for, and so on. And of course, we all know there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, those things are good. So when Jesus preaches at the beginning of his Sermon on the Mount, "Blessed are the pure in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven," we're confronted with the question, what does he mean by this? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. What does he mean by this poverty of spirit? I would like you to think of one thing in your life, one situation, just broadly speaking, could be a situation, a person, probably would be many, but just one thing that if you could get rid of that, then you would have peace in your life. Just want you to let that sort of percolate till the end. Right now, you cannot get rid of it, and it causes you a lot of stress, a lot of worry, heartache. Could be a strained relationship, a lost job, which is truly scary. or a job you don't like. You feel you just have to keep doing it because you have to feed the family. An addiction that is very difficult to break. You feel like you're completely and utterly helpless. School you don't like, but you know you just have to keep plodding along. This is only to name a few. In this place in our lives, we are poor in spirit. We come to a point when we recognize, maybe I have these talents, I have this gift of intellect or skill set, but this is beyond me. I can't seem to change this, I can't fix this. I am empty, I'm poor. We feel like we have no control. This is where Jesus wants us to allow him to be, that very place in our lives. Not so that he can necessarily solve things all at once for us. Remember, somebody stood up and said, "Hey, Lord, can you solve this problem between myself and my brother?" And he says, I'm not here to help you resolve your problems, your family difficulties. You work it out yourself. Now, Jesus was not saying your family doesn't concern me, but I'm not here as a fixer, as it were. I'm here to save your soul. And if you listen to me, you'll actually acquire the tools you need to work out your own situations. And I will help you, but not necessarily in the way you think I will help you. This is something that no mobster can give us. In fact, no worldly power can give us. But we might be tempted, because of the way we are infected by sin, to take the money, as it were, to go for the quick solution, to try and work it out on our own. And then we discover, to our sadness, chagrin, sometimes discouragement and despondency, we can't do it. I just can't do it. Jesus can and will help us in our poverty, our emptiness, our inability to have peace, which our heart truly longs for. Even Augustine, so long ago, this man who had an incredible amount of intellect, he had a tremendous skill set, he had the world's goods. Life was good for Augustine, but he recognized it just wasn't enough. His heart kept longing for something that nothing could give him in this world. To highlight how worldly peace is expensive, here's a true story I heard several weeks ago. I've made it so general that no one could know who it is. Besides, as I've said before, it's not anyone here at Corpus Christi. A doctor told me of someone they were treating, a 40-year-old. This person was brought to the hospital because they had had a heart attack. Discussions between the doctor and patient led to it being revealed that this person was retired at 40 years of age. Wouldn't you just love that? I mean, that'd be great. I could be in the sun all day long. Ha, ha, ha. At 40, the doctor says, how did that happen? So this person revealed that they had a product that they sold to a company for millions and millions of dollars. They retired at 40. LG, life is good. However, after this sale, they thought, of course, peace was theirs. They had a world of peace. They had a peace the world had given them, their own efforts and so on, but they did not have the peace of Christ in their lives. In this case, what moved in was cocaine. Now this individual has to spend their money on a very expensive medications for a permanent heart condition. Worldly peace is expensive. It costs us things that we think we're not going to have to pay for. It can lead to other things, of course, than this, perhaps what seems to be a dramatic example, other stresses in life, other addictions, wasting of life, and worse, a loss of purpose in life. Remember years ago, this famous pastor in the States, Rick Warren, wrote a book called The Purpose-Driven Life. Well, it sold millions and millions of copies because it resonated with people who were longing for purpose in their life. People were off the track. They were longing for something, and it resonated with so many people across the spectrum. So worldly peace can be very expensive. We continue to experience a poverty of spirit, a lack of fulfillment, an unhappiness about ourselves and life in general. God offers us a different kind of peace. It is one based on relationship and not on possessions or items. And, to be clear, these things are not bad in and of themselves. It's the focus we put on them and how much we make them central in our lives. In the gospel, we hear Jesus teaching, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." This could be spoken to Abraham, who is extremely wealthy, or to the widow with the 2 mites she puts into the coffers that attracts the attention of God, and not all these rich people are putting in bags of money. "Hey, everybody, look what I'm doing." But it's the widow, and it's not because of the 2 mites per se. So there's something deeper here that's so important for us to plug into, to open our hearts to. That is, those who come to realize that they are not just limited before God, but that everything they need for fulfillment comes from Him. It can't be in the accumulation of world's goods, or the acquisition of world's goods or things or items, even people. We can have an inordinate love for another human person. Even in marriage, this can happen. Expecting something out of a person you're married to that only God can give you is really unfair. Sometimes it happens. Could be due to ignorance, or it could be due to a disordered kind of notion of what love is. We can have everything the world offers. Think of this person seeing the doctor now, but are still lacking for something, and our heart is hungry. Remember years ago, Bruce Springsteen, one of his famous songs, "The Hungry Heart." When we recognize this poverty of spirit and ask Jesus to fill this poverty with Himself, then we begin to experience the life of the kingdom He's talking about. Our collective and personal history gives all too much evidence that when Jesus is not allowed to give us His peace, then we settle for worldly peace that the mobster offers. The sole focus of money can very easily become our efforts. The 3 principal enemies of the human person, the world, the flesh, and the devil. Then we discover all too quickly the worldly peace is very expensive. Worldly peace is expensive. It grabs our heart, grab our life, cause stress. How often I've heard, about jealousy and envy, longing for what the other person has, can even creep into clerical life. We're jealous of another priest or colleague, what they have, and so on and so on. Happens across the spectrum of life. Causes sleepless nights and so on. So when you hear this, how do you feel about it? Now, because I'm not giving people much time to think, but when you go home and maybe digest this or watch the clip on YouTube, does the idea, well, maybe Father Hamilton really doesn't know what it's like to live in the world, pops into your head? I don't really have concerns. I can tell you I have 7 million of them. Y'all know what I mean? It's not the only one, I can assure you. Sometimes people think the priest comes from a perfect life. Please, chuck this idea out the window. My family is not perfect. My family is like every other family. We have goods and we have ups and downs and so on. So I have lots of points of stress. So as your pastor, I can tell you, as I said, I have 7 million concerns in the loan to be repaid. You may not worry about it, and in fact, you may not want to even think about it. But I do. It's my job. I experience a poverty of spirit when I go before the Lord, and I realize that He is calling me to trust Him. That we, collective we, meaning the Lord, you and me, can and will do this. It's easy to say it, but then, the world rushes in. There is no quick solutions in this case. I'm not going to go out and borrow $7 million from a loan shark in order to pay off our $7 million debt. So I can't succumb to something like that. But I can give in to stress and worry and perhaps even discouragement. If I let the payments dominate my life, I can easily stress. And a few times I've woken up at 3 in the morning and there it is, right there. Doesn't happen too often, but once in a while. And those are moments when I have to invite Jesus into that moment and say, Lord, I know you're going to help me do this. Us do this, not me. You're going to help us do this. So to trust Jesus in this way, to invite him into your life in this way, does not mean for me, for example, to dissolve the capital campaign, say my prayers, and Jesus will take care of it. If he was to come in and show himself before me, he would say, why are you so stupid? BJ, I didn't call you to be stupid. I called you to be a man after my own heart. I want you to invite me into your life so I can help you do this. I'm not going to do it for you. I'm not going to wave a wand and it's all of a sudden going to be easy peasy. It's not the way I work. You should know that. So I have to have the capital campaign, call the meetings, look for new ways to promote the 10-year vision, and somehow dovetail the two so that I don't hammer people about money, 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 and yet I talk about it anyways. Well, that's not an easy gig. There are many days when I have to, in effect, fight to pray to ensure that I'm carving out time to be with the Master, to be with Jesus. Many priests will say, oh, I'm just too busy to pray. This is really stupid for a priest to actually hear themselves saying this. They should say, well, I'm stupid. I've allowed myself to be seduced by the enemy if I'm too busy to pray. So I experience that time when I have to fight to pray, to make sure I am making that time to be with the Master and his mother and what I call my saint mentors, because I read their lives, because I want to learn from them how do they acquire what is now called life balance. Many people have now heard this term, life balance. In the spiritual life, we call it unity of life, so things don't get out of whack. I want his peace, which means having a relationship with him first and foremost. This gives sense or meaning to the teaching of Jesus, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all other things will be added unto you. Doesn't mean we stop working, stop trying to come up with new ideas and so on. I don't want to make any deals with myself or the enemy or the world, but simply go before Jesus, poor in spirit, trusting him, trusting that he will fill me with himself. So peace is expensive. The mobster in this case, and from a certain angle, had it right. The world's peace will dominate our life, cause us stress, lead us astray from what really matters in life. It can cost a lot, and it gives nothing, ultimately, when all is said and done. Peace is expensive. Jesus' peace involves a relationship with him that leads to trust that he is always with us. Even though I walk in the valley of darkness, I fear no evil. Why? Because you are at my side. Not because you help me wave a wand and take care of all my problems, but you are at my side in good times and in bad, better than the best of marriages. Jesus will make demands on us, so he does cost. His friendship is expensive, but what he gives in exchange is far better than anything the world, the flesh, or the devil can give us. And that is friendship with himself. So what does it look like to live the beatitude, to have this poverty of spirit and obtain peace that only Jesus can give? To return to the scenario I posed at the beginning of this homily, ask yourself this question: what is the one area in my life, in your life, that I could be rid of, if I could be rid of it, that I would wish for and it would be gone, would bring peace to my life? What would it be? That is where you are poor in spirit. That is where I am poor in spirit. I'll bet it didn't take more than 3 seconds for the vast majority of us to know exactly what that is. That is where we are poor in spirit. That's where we need to invite Jesus into our life, into that part of our life. Identify it. Then invite Jesus into that part of your life, into that thing or that scenario right now. Now, if you allow Jesus to stay there, because we can say, well, in and out, I'll try it on my own. We revert back to the default of ourself, but allow Jesus to stay there in your life, in your heart, then you will begin to experience peace that is expensive. It will cost. But with the peace that Jesus gives you, you will begin to experience the blessing of being poor in spirit, for the kingdom of heaven is beginning to belong to you.